Hey everyone, and happy holidays. It's Kendall.
And Josh from Mile Higher Media.
And as many of you guys know, we just recently launched our foundation, the Higher Hope Foundation. And now we are about to launch our annual matching program for the holiday season. So it's a great time to get involved, to give back, because your gift can go twice as far.
Thanks to all of your support thus far. We've already awarded several grants. We have several more in process, and we've got several exciting projects coming in 2025.
So if you are interested in getting involved and allowing us to do even more projects in the future, it is easier than ever to make a donation. You can do it right on our website, which is higherhope.org. And we've launched a new feature where you can create your own fundraiser. And you can access that by going to the Get Involved tab on our website.
So if you want your gift to be doubled, right now through December 27th, Mile Higher Media will be matching all gifts.
And just as a reminder, 100% of your donations will go directly towards impacting victims of violent crime.
We just want to say a huge thank you in advance to everyone out there for all of your support, your generosity. And there's lots of other ways to help support the foundation. If you're not able to give a gift, just sharing our campaigns, the work that we're doing just helps get the word out and, helps us further our mission.
Yeah, truly, because of all of your support, so many people are getting the vital services and help that they need. And we're very, very grateful for your continued support. So thank you.
Light out. Everybody.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Lights Out. I'm your host, Josh.
And I'm your host, Austin.
And I'm the producer, Daniel.
We got the full crew today.
Yeah, it's feeling good.
And we've got a very interesting special episode for you today.
Yeah, we've never done one quite like this before.
No, this is, shout out to Vice. This is where I got this idea for this episode. Basically, we're going to be taking a look at death row inmates and their last meal requests.
Yeah, and a few others sprinkled in.
Not all death row. Right.
Try to get a little outside the box with this one.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff to see, which it's kind of ironic because I think the first thing that comes to all of our minds is if you're awaiting execution, how hungry are you realistically going to be?
Right, not at all. I would just be like, what's the point of a last meal?
Right.
Personally.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the same token, food is something that we all enjoy, I feel like.
Yeah. It's like your last pleasure on this earth.
It's comforting.
Yeah.
You feel better sometimes when your stomach is full versus when it's empty.
Except when I gorge a bunch of Italian food, then I feel like going to sleep.
Dude.
And I just,
Italian
my blood sugar
food
spikes. Yeah.
With lots of garlic and lots of olive oil just completely destroys me.
Yeah. I'm obliterated.
I'm in the bathroom.
I'm gone.
An hour later.
Yeah. And then I'm in bed.
Yeah. Then going straight to bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to take a look at, some inmates who were on death row and their last meal requests that you may have heard of and some that you may not have heard of. And like Austin said, a few other individuals kind of sprinkled around the world. So you can kind of see, how last meal requests look different maybe, or how they look kind of similar, honestly, in other places.
Yeah. And I know personally, like, food is my love language. I love food. You cook me a good meal, I know you're really into me.
Yeah. So you like meals cooked for you? Do you like cooking for other people?
I love cooking for other people.
Same.
Yes. It's like just a profound joy.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I don't love, there's an old saying, I can't remember, maybe Agatha Christie or something. It's like, I don't like writing, but I like having written something. I think the same way for food. I don't love cooking, but I love having cooked something. So
I like that.
At the end of it, I'm like, damn, I put in so much work and I created this like incredible meal, and then getting to share that with people, it's a good feeling.
I totally relate to that. My favorite thing is just, and sometimes I'll even like ping people as they're eating, be like, what do you think of it?
Yeah, how do you think?
I like getting the feedback and hearing people be like, oh, Josh, this is so good.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny's eaten my food a number of times. And I've eaten Danny's food. Danny was a chef as well. So if there's anybody that knows anything about food, Danny knows quite a bit. You like cooking, don't you?
I do like cooking. I don't like getting paid to cook anymore.
That's stressful.
That's stressful, but I do like cooking. I like the act of cooking. I like the sounds, the smells. I like everything about it.
That's good. Yeah, I always ask for notes. Any notes on this one? Because it's hard to make a perfect meal. You know, when are you ever serving up a 10 out of 10? At least I know I'm never making like a perfect meal. There's always a little room for improvement, which is also kind of the fun. So you're like, oh, for next time, I know how to improve this dish to try and make it a 10.
Yeah, I mean, cooking is just so much fun, but eating's even better.
Eating's the best part.
It's the best part.
Yeah.
You know, I love cooking, but I love eating more.
Definitely.
So, I mean, I'm sure you're wondering, well, Josh, Austin, Denny, what would be your last meal if it came down to it?
Yeah.
What would you request?
I would have a big request.
I would too.
I
I had
don't
to
know.
limit myself.
Yeah.
Just getting out of hand. I was like, realistically, I wouldn't be able to eat all this.
Right. And realistically, the prison probably wouldn't give me everything that I wanted. So I would go. So, you know, I'm from the Detroit area. That's where I was born and raised. I lived in Hamtramck, and a big thing there, it's pizza central in Detroit. I think per capita, like there's more pizza places in Detroit than anywhere else in the
So
US.
like Domino's, Papa John's.
No, I hate that shit. No, garbage. There's actually like if you're going to go chain, go Detroit style Jets Pizza. You
Yeah.
can find them out here.
Yeah.
It's really good, but I would do like a 24 piece pepperoni. Just give me that classic pepperoni with some Jets Ranch. I'd be really happy about that. But really, actually, if you're ever in Detroit, go check out Michigan and Trumbull Pizza. It's probably the best Detroit style pizza I've ever had.
Because Detroit style's thick. Yeah.
It's like cake.
And kind of like, it's doughy.
Yeah.
It's like,
And the whole thing is that it's like kind of seared on the edge. And you get that really nice crunch to it because there's just 8 pounds of butter that they throw on that tray. But yeah, I love Detroit style pizza. It'll make you feel like crap after, but
it's heavy.
It's heavy, but
It's a lot of carbs.
It's good. Yeah, it is. But it's really good. And then I don't know, I would go like some Nashville hot chicken is some of my favorite food of all time. There's a really good place in Denver, Music City Hot Chicken. It's like in the back of this bar, True Brewery. That's some of the best Nashville hot chicken I've ever had.
Damn.
It's very good. So get some of that.
Extra greasy.
Extra greasy. I'm dying, so I might die before I get to the chair.
Hey,
That's right. Maybe some sushi to top it off.
What's your favorite sushi?
I don't know. There's too many places that I like, but one I think of is Sushi Den here in Denver is really good.
Solid. Like, what's your go-to roll?
I love going to a place and ordering like a specialty roll that I haven't really seen anywhere else. So in this case, I might just do Chef's Choice. Just give me something crazy.
So if they come out with like an eel octopus roll, you're fucking
it's still
that up.
moving.
Yeah, or the sushi in Japan that's still breathing.
Yeah. I do love a good just cut of tuna sashimi. Like if your tuna's really good,
where it's like,
I love your place.
Like almost melts in your mouth like butter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that.
So sushi, Detroit style pizza, Nashville hot chicken.
And
it's funny because like yours are kind of similar to mine.
Are they?
If we were there together, I would be down with that.
We'd just be sharing it, and then they'd kill us together. Yeah. I'll throw on some of Grandma's cheesy potatoes at the end.
That's fair.
I'll throw that in there as well. That's it, I swear.
All right. What to drink though? You're just gonna go no drink.
No,
You're choking on all the food.
Yeah. Damn, I didn't think of that. I mean, it's not allowed, but I would go like a Coors Light.
All right.
They wouldn't allow it though, so I go water.
Just a water.
Yeah. It's what has created life on this earth, and I'm gonna go out drinking it.
Stay hydrated.
Yeah.
All right. Danny, what about you? I know you've got some good ideas for your last meal.
So mine's going to be pretty simple. I would go with my mom's chili relleno casserole that I had when I was a kid. It's one of my favorite meals from my childhood. And I mean, if I'm dying, I just want that last little bit of warmth and home. But on top of that, I'd probably go with just a nice burger and fries. Classic burger and fries. And then like
smashed, or do you like thicker patties? like juicy, thick.
I'd probably go smashed. I like the crispy. I like the crispiness, but I need like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
With cheese in between.
Exactly. I need the thickness of a thick burger, but I want the crispiness of a smash burger.
Yeah.
And then there's probably like a Diet Coke on the side or like a cherry cola, just something classic. Yeah.
Diet Coke's a good one. Yeah.
What about you, Josh?
Oh, I got a long list here.
I'm ready for it. Let's go.
I like savory and I like sweet. So savory wise, a Meat Lover's New York style pizza. I could, like thin crust. Like they need to fly it in from New York. There's nowhere out here that really does it justice. Birria tacos. Like I
dunk them.
We're going to talk about somebody who requested 20 odd tacos.
Yeah.
That would be me. I'd be like 20 odd birria tacos, please.
Hell yeah.
So good. I'd have to get a little barbecue in there, like some smoked brisket on a sandwich would be really good. The fatty pieces. Just fresh cut. I agree with the sushi too. I would go more like poke. I do like a spicy tuna poke.
Yum.
Kind of like with some mixed in ponzu, kind of Hawaiian.
Ooh, yeah.
Ahi tuna.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'd just be like finishing it off with a bunch of sweets. I'm a sucker for chocolate chip cookies. It's like one of my favorite, like fresh homemade chocolate chip cookies.
Fresh out of the oven. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a little melty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can't even pick it up because it just falls.
Yes.
Breaks in half. So I do a dozen of those. I just pound those. And then everybody's like, you like this? But pumpkin bread.
No, I like pumpkin bread.
Dude.
Yeah.
Pumpkin bread is my kryptonite. Like if you bring me a loaf of pumpkin bread, I will love you forever and I will probably eat it all in one sitting.
Yum.
I can't stop myself. I don't know what it is about it. Do you like moist pumpkin bread?
Do you put anything on it? Sometimes I put like cream cheese or anything.
No,
do you
plain.
Just, that's it, not even butter?
Not even butter.
Damn.
Just plain
raw dog that thing.
cold too. I like it cold.
Like
kind of put it in the fridge for a little bit, slice it up and just like, this is fresh on my mind because I got a pumpkin bread loaf from a family member and I crushed it in the past like 2 days. I can't help myself. It's in the fridge and I'm just like, I want a slice. And then I'll have like 3 slices.
I'm imagining Josh with the cartoons when they eat things whole. Yeah. And goes straight down their gullet. That's what he does to the pumpkin bread.
And then I think I'd have to, because why not? This is like, on my deathbed, I think I'd only want to eat this, but a Cinnabon. Ooh. A monster Cinnabon.
You know what? That's on mine too. Because just cinnamon roll in general.
Yeah. Just a fresh cinnamon roll with a bunch of frosting on it.
That's good. Yeah.
Or icing. Oh,
damn.
Love it. Yeah. If you can't tell, I like pumpkin cinnamon, like desserts.
Yeah. And normally they put cinnamon in pumpkin bread, right?
Yeah.
That's
it's usually got like a pumpkin spice or cinnamon in it. So that's probably why. And then I would just do like a big gulp of Mountain Dew or Dr.
Hell
Pepper.
Yeah. Get those Doritos going. Yeah. Play World of Warcraft one last time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'd probably be almost unconscious after.
Yeah, right. I know we're going to die before we get there. Yeah. That's good. Those were good.
But yeah, you let us know what your last meal would be.
Yeah. If anyone has if
you have some
very creative, feel free to comment.
Or if you would be joining us.
Yeah,
for our last meal.
Definitely.
Let us know. But so let's go ahead and jump in here. We're going to kind of be talking about a bunch of different people and kind of give you a little overview of why they ended up on death row or facing execution, obviously, but then also tell you their last meal requests. So to start things off, we need to clarify that not all last meal requests end up being what the inmate receives. So some of these will be their confirmed meals. Others will only be what they requested.
Right. Because we'll see that some are ridiculous.
Yes. Some are, it'll be self-explanatory.
Yeah.
The holiday season is here, and you know what that means. It means your local grocery store is going to be busier than ever. If you've ever been to the grocery store around the holidays, you know how crazy packed it can be. And quite honestly, it's a place I just want to avoid altogether. And I can do that thanks to HelloFresh. HelloFresh is one of my favorite sponsors. They've been supporting the show pretty much since the very beginning, which I love. but I am a paying customer of HelloFresh for the last 3 years, and I can't imagine my life without them. They just make meal planning so simple. Through the app, I can plan out my meals for literally months at a time. They have the menus available. They're constantly changing. They're constantly bringing new dishes to the menu, which I love. But the best thing about it is that they ship all my meals right to my door. It's all pre-portioned. You just pull it out, put it together, and you have a delicious meal on your family's table in no time. For example, actually last night I made Chesapeake Bay shrimp sandos, which were absolutely delicious. They had this kind of dill, lemony, kind of sour cream sauce to go on top of it, and it was just absolutely chef's kiss. It was amazing. Another great thing with HelloFresh is that you can easily customize the recipe so each meal is just the way you like it. If there's options available where maybe it's just a veggie recipe, you can add protein to it or take protein away. You can swap side dishes. They really give you a ton of customization, which I love. But they also have the HelloFresh Market that has over 100 add-on items like desserts, quick breakfasts, snacks, and a lot more. And this month, they even have Thanksgiving items to help wow a crowd with minimal effort on your part. So they've got everything you need, all at HelloFresh. Right now, you can get 10 free meals at hellofresh.com/freelightsout. Applied across 7 boxes, new subscribers only, and it varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to hellofresh.com/lightsout because HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit, and I eat it. James Edward Smith, a tarot card dealer from New Orleans, moved to Texas and became a cab driver. He then tried to rob an insurance company in Houston at gunpoint and ended up killing the district manager, Larry Don Roas. He was chased down and tackled by bystanders and arrested by a passing detective. James was put to death in June 1990 and had one of the oddest recorded last meal requests. Guess what it is? Nope, you didn't get it. A lump of dirt. That's not even in the food realm.
No.
But he was like, well, might as well try. Obviously, dirt isn't on the approved list for foods provided by prison officials, so they denied his request and gave him a cup of plain yogurt instead.
Sorry.
But apparently, this just wasn't any old lump of dirt he requested. Apparently, it was Riacunda dirt, also known as gopher dust. Never heard of this before.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
But apparently, this is often used for hexes in Hoodoo tradition. Some claimed he wanted it so his spirit would safely transition into the afterlife instead of lingering in the mortal world. In his last days, he was quoted saying, "Life is a temporary situation, the spirit moves on, and death is like eating a prune in the morning. It's a natural function." Okay, well.
Sounds like he was ready to move on, I guess.
Yeah, very... odd. You wonder what it'd probably open a whole can of worms if they expanded. You could ask for some type of item,
right? Yeah.
If you didn't want food, then you could also ask for some type of object or item that you wanted,
just as like a comfort item. Yeah, I could see that. But special gopher dust.
Yep, interesting.
He didn't get it, unfortunately, but.
When talking about last meal requests, of course, we need to talk about the infamous serial killer John Wayne Gacy. We've covered him on the show. It was quite a while ago. But if you don't remember, a very, very evil man. He murdered 33 boys of several different age groups, and out of the 33 individuals, the corpses of 26 were discovered in the crawl space beneath his home. Meanwhile, he buried 3 of them on his property, and he disposed of the remaining 4 into the Des Plaines River. And for his horrific crimes, John Wayne Gacy was sentenced to death on March 13th, 1980. And I bet you can't guess what his last words were. "Kiss my ass." God, he's a fuck.
Piece of shit.
But he was allowed a private picnic on prison grounds with friends and family, which is just so fucking odd.
That weird?
It's very weird.
I don't understand that move.
His last meal included a bucket of KFC chicken, 12 fried shrimp, a pound of strawberries, French fries, and a Diet Coke. And at one point of his life, John Wayne Gacy even worked as a manager in 3 KFC restaurants. KFC, man,
It's very strange.
comes up quite a bit.
In Last Meal Request specifically is very odd.
Would either of you want KFC? Is that like a...
I think
KFC's
KFC,
all right, but...
I think at the time that he died, KFC was at like its peak.
Yeah.
Because now it's just, it's overpriced and it's just not that good anymore.
No, I mean, I can't imagine the quality of the chicken at KFC.
Yeah, right?
Very good.
And I think it's just continuously gone downhill. I honestly haven't had KFC in like 10, 15 years or something.
Really? That
long?
long?
Yeah.
Dang.
Because last time I had it, I was so disappointed. I was like, why did I even get this? It
I
was
think-
so bad.
I definitely had it in the last 5 years, I think. But when I've gone, I would get chicken tenders over like bone-in chicken.
Yeah,
But Popeyes is far
for
better.
sure. Agreed.
I go if I go fast food fried chicken, I go Popeyes or Church's
Yeah.
over fucking KFC. But
KFC just
To
has
each its own.
It's the brand name basically at this point.
yeah,
But yeah, KFC. Besides John Wayne Gacy's request, KFC came up a lot while I was searching for Last Meal requests. Mona Fandi, a Malaysian pop singer, was executed by hanging in 2001 for murder. She declined a last meal, but was still just given KFC.
I don't want any food. How about some fried chicken?
Yeah, like the prison's just like, okay, we'll do KFC. And I remember Daniel and I were kind of talking about this. KFC is super popular on the other side of the world for whatever reason. It's like really big over in like Asia. I guess they love KFC over there.
There's actually a Christmas tradition in Japan where they eat KFC on Christmas Eve.
Really?
Yeah. KFC did a big marketing thing in the 70s saying that Christmas is Kentucky. And so it stuck. And now on Christmas Eve, they eat KFC in Japan.
Damn.
Yeah.
I bet it's better in Japan.
Oh, it's
than it
Probably
is here.
is. Yeah.
It's probably
The
really
quality.
good.
Yeah. And they have like a different meal. Like they don't have like mashed potato. Like they have mashed potatoes, but like it's more commonly eaten with like shrimp grits.
Mm.
So it's a bit different.
Yeah.
It's still fried chicken.
I bet they do a different like spice in the...
Yeah. Maybe like a tempura batter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I bet it's good.
Oh,
yeah. I'm going to Japan just to try the KFC.
We're
I'm
ordering
going to-
KFC for lunch today.
Yeah.
That's what's happening after this. It's got me hungry now.
There's another 2 guys, Andrew Chan and Murin Sukumaran. They were Australian ringleaders and drug smugglers, and they were executed by firing squad in Indonesia in 2015. They were granted KFC as their last meal, which was an exception by officials. So the American car thief, burglar, kidnapper, and murderer named Robert Alton Harris, he was executed by gas chamber on April 21st, 1992 at San Quentin. And this was the first execution in California in 25 years. His famous final words were, quote, "You can be a king or a street sweeper, but everybody dances with the Grim Reaper." And it's funny because it actually turns out he was misquoting the 1991 movie Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which the actual quote goes, quote, "You might be a king or a little street sweeper, but sooner or later you dance with the Reaper." He also requested KFC. It was a 21-piece bucket, 2 large Domino's pizzas, a bag of jelly beans, a 6-pack of Pepsi, and a pack of Camel cigarettes. He got almost everything he requested, but prison officials drew the line at Domino's. They were like,
We're going to go to KFC, but no Domino's, bro.
Right. Strange. He even got the cigarettes too, but yeah, instead they were like, we draw the line at Domino's, and they heated up some frozen Tombstone pizzas and said this is the best we can do.
Do you think they did that on purpose? Tombstone pizzas?
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Which I grew up on Tombstone pizzas. I love well, I had one fairly recently and I was kind of
Not
disappointed.
that good. Yeah.
I was like, damn, this is not.
Have
you noticed that as a kid?
Yeah. Like
Shit you
I used
loved?
to eat Hot Pockets. I thought those were the greatest things. I had one last year just to see if there was maybe some nostalgia or anything. Most disgusting thing I've ever had in my life. It was so gross.
Funny how that works, right?
Yeah. I
Shit
think
you loved
like
as a kid.
puberty maybe played into like I don't know, saturated fat. Give me just a bunch of garbage.
Dude, I'd put down a whole tombstone by myself.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd just make one and eat the whole damn thing.
I would do that today.
Do that for
just
lunch.
on a sad day. Yeah. Yeah, those I like Red Baron. Red Baron oven pizzas are pretty decent. But I don't often get frozen pizzas anymore.
I'm really into the Milton's frozen pizzas.
Okay.
They're a brand that does cauliflower crust because I'm trying to be healthy.
No, yeah.
Really good, by the way.
That reminds me. I do frozen pizzas. Yeah, it's the Costco cauliflower crust pizzas. Those actually are really underrated.
They are.
Those are really good.
No, I feel like cauliflower crust is just, everybody should be eating those. They're so good.
It's really good.
Like you can't taste cauliflower. It's a lot healthier for you.
Yeah.
Trying to watch my carbs.
Yep. Same.
So you can eat the whole thing and not feel like a piece of shit anymore, I actually had one this weekend.
Nice.
It was pretty fucking good.
Good. Yeah. Those are awesome. I do like cauliflower frozen pizzas. I also feel like there's something better about the freezing cauliflower and then reheating it isn't as nasty as like the bread. It's not soggy heating. Yeah.
No. And it's got a nice crunch to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's delicious. Well, moving on to Ray Rector. He was put to death in Arkansas by lethal injection at the age of 42 on January 2nd, 1992, and he was sentenced to death for 2 counts of murder, including a police officer. He then attempted to turn the gun on himself and commit suicide, but failed, which injured his brain and left him mentally incapacitated on death row. He essentially lobotomized himself, which is crazy. But at the same time, good old Bill Clinton was running for president, but his alleged 12-year affair with Jennifer Flowers knocked him down 12 points in the polls.
Uh-oh.
Dirty boy. He flew to his home state of Arkansas to personally oversee Ricky's execution. He wanted to raise his national profile and reverse the Democratic Party's quote-unquote soft-on-crime image. For his last meal, Ricky requested steak, fried chicken, cherry Kool-Aid, and a pecan pie.
That's a good
That is delicious,
meal.
yeah. I love me some pecan pie. But he was barely cognitive at the time of his last meal and left the pecan pie behind, telling a guard that he was, quote, saving it for later. On the night of his execution, he said, quote, "I'm going to vote for him. I'm going to vote for Bill Clinton." And Bill ended up winning the election, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, that's a bizarre story too.
Yeah, it's... And he's got this like crazy scar like all the way around his head.
If you look at the picture, yeah. So next on our list, worst of the worst here, Adolf Eichmann. He was a major organizer of the Holocaust and the genocide against Jewish people. He would seize their properties and transport them to ghettos and extermination camps, resulting in the deaths, as we know, of nearly 6 million Jewish people. So, yeah, worst. The worst of the worst here. And after the war, he tried to defend his actions, saying he was not an anti-Semite, only an obedient bureaucrat who was just carrying out his duties, which was a common defense for a lot of Nazis. He declined a special meal, but asked for a bottle of Carmel red wine. And this is from a known vineyard and winery in Israel. He also received the usual prison food of cheese, bread, olives, and tea. He drank half the bottle of Carmel before being hanged to death on June 1st, 1962. His last words, quote, "I hope that all of you will follow me."
Okay.
Absolute piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, David Castillo was sentenced to death after stabbing a liquor store clerk in Mercedes, Texas, and he was executed in 1998. He's gone down in history as having one of the most absurd last meal requests in U.S. history. Here's his request: 24 tacos, 2 cheeseburgers, 2 whole onions, 5 jalapeno peppers, 6 enchiladas, 6 tostadas, 1 quart of milk, and 1 chocolate milkshake. Now, I just want to know, was he planning to eat those onions like whole, raw?
Yeah.
Or my guess is he asked for the onions and jalapeno peppers because he was going to like break them apart into little pieces and maybe sprinkle it on top of his tacos.
Okay, yeah.
Is my
that
guess.
Makes the most sense, I think.
Yeah. Maybe just because
they're
like
disgusting.
Eating
yeah.
onions. But what's even crazier is that he almost got everything that he wanted. just short of 2 cheeseburgers and 20 tacos.
So
they gave him
4 tacos.
4
at the end,
tacos. Yeah, 24 tacos, bro.
Come on.
Jesus.
And like, we know nobody. I mean, unless, who's the famous hot dog eater? Why can't I think of his name? He's just famous for just being able to.
He's Juan Nathan's hot dog company.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, dude, like crunchy tacos, I could probably put down 20.
You think so? In like one sitting?
Yeah. I probably could. I've put down 12. I could eat a taco 12 pack.
I could do a 12 pack.
24?
That's a lot.
That might be,
I would feel ill. I would have to purge probably afterwards, but yeah, that would be a lot of tacos.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Were you thinking of Joey Chestnut?
That's it. Yeah, Joey Chestnut. So I could see him if he ever gets convicted
Tacos,
and
though?
ends up on.
Glizzies are easier to suck down, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
What kind of tacos though?
Like crunchy
a
hard
Taco
shell.
Bell? Okay, yeah. Like a street taco, I could put down 24, no problem.
Yeah, because street tacos are pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it depends what kind of taco we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, street tacos are easy to put down.
Yeah.
All
They're
right. I
small.
can see 20. We should do it. We should order some and do it at the very
Lights
end
out,
of the episode.
mukbang. Coming up.
Yeah. Next on the list is Mathias Kneissl. He was a 26-year-old German man who was decapitated by the guillotine after being found guilty of murder, along with several other charges. He had become a famous outlaw and a popular anti-hero in Bavarian folklore for his humiliation of police officers who couldn't seem to capture him, but eventually they did. When he was sentenced to death, he said, quote, "Well, that's a good start of a week." His last meal request, legendary, 6 glasses of beer.
What a guy.
Yeah. No food.
No food.
Just beer.
Just beer.
They bring him like Natty Light or something.
Yeah, just really rub it in. Yeah.
Some Keystone.
Yeah.
Stephen Wayne Anderson was a contract killer and serial killer. He was put to death in California by lethal injection at the age of 49 in 2002 for the murder of an 81-year-old retired piano teacher, Elizabeth Lyman. He was known to have killed or admitted to killing at least 8 other people. One was a fellow inmate, and at least 7 others were contract killings. And for his last meal, Anderson requested 2 grilled cheese sandwiches, a pint of cottage cheese, a hominy corn mixture, peach pie, chocolate chip ice cream, and radishes. Okay, that's an odd combo.
That's a school lunch.
Gross.
It's a school. Yeah,
That's a school lunch.
That's like what your mom packs in your lunchbox, right there.
Also, just so much dairy. That would be.
Maybe he was lactose intolerant.
If he was just trying to like poop his pants or something. That's
the cottage cheese, man. A pint of it?
A pint.
Oof.
Gross. Next up, Ronnie Lee Gardner. He was put to death in Utah by firing squad in 2010 at the age of 49. He had killed a man during an escape attempt from a courthouse in 1985 when he was on trial for another murder. He spent nearly 25 years in the court system after his conviction. This prompted the Utah House of Representatives to introduce legislation to limit the number of appeals in capital punishment cases. For his last meal, Gardner requested steak, a lobster tail, apple pie, vanilla ice cream. The kicker, which I think Josh...
Yeah, I should have added this to my request at the beginning.
The kicker was that he also requested to eat his meal while watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy. My question is, was it the theatrical cut or the extended editions?
Well, I think he had limited time, so I don't think,
true.
I don't think they're going to let him watch all 20 hours of the extended.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, this whole concept's very weird. It's kind of bizarre.
Like getting to watch a movie?
Yeah. Yeah, and even, you know, like what's the purpose behind the last meal? Is it to give, you know, like do one nice thing for them before they're put to death?
I'm assuming that's basically it. Just your last,
show them some humility.
Your last gesture. Yeah. Before. Yeah. I mean,
do they deserve that? I think that's a controversial.
I think with the John Wayne Gacy one, it's like, okay, last meal, fine. But then he's out there having a lunch with like a little picnic with friends and family. So it's like, where do we draw the line with people who have done horrific things, you know?
Which I don't really have an issue with the the movie thing. Because, I mean, most inmates on death row have TVs and
Right.
can watch movies and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, still pretty odd, because I know a lot of, doing a little bit more research on inmates on death row who are awaiting execution, and it sounds like, one of the things they got to figure out is what to do with all their personal belongings after they're executed. And I know at some prisons, they actually, I think it's like a week or two in advance, or even like 30 days in advance, the inmate has to decide who's going to take all their,
Like you get like
belongings.
a little will or something.
Yeah.
And give it to
But then they take everything. I'm trying to remember what prison this was, but they took all of his personal belongings because they're going to give it to his family, but did it 30 days in advance. So for the last 30 days before he was executed, he had nothing.
Weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
And he was just like alone with his thoughts, which his family member was like, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the only thing he's known for the past 15, 20 years he was on death row was his TV. It's like the only sort of like social, interaction, I guess, like through the TV. The only, sort of friends are these people that he watches, and they took all of that away from him that far in advance, which was kind of odd.
Kind of unethical.
Yeah. So he was like, his brother was talking about how just he was thinking about his final days and how, horrible they must
miserable.
be. Yeah. It's pretty.
I at least think it's a good gesture from our end that we're like, hey, if we're taking you out of this world, the least we can do, maybe just as a gesture of humanity, this is what we'll do,
Yeah. But moving on. So James Collier was executed by lethal injection in Texas on December 11, 2002. He had been convicted of murder for shooting a mother, Gwendolyn Joy Reed, and her son Timmy Reed to death with a rifle in Wichita Falls, Texas. And James's last meal request was 30 jumbo shrimp with cocktail sauce, a baked potato, French fries, a T-bone steak, a chocolate malt, 1 gallon of vanilla ice cream, and 3 cans of Big Red soda. But in the end, that was just his request. He was only given fried fish, chicken fried steak, a baked potato, and ice cream. His last words were, "The only thing I want to say is that I appreciate the hospitality you guys have shown me and the respect, and the last meal was really good. That is about it." Which I think, that kind of explains sort of the thinking behind the last meal request, which makes sense too, especially when you hear from the people who work in the prisons who actually are carrying out these executions, and, and watching interviews with him and hearing, because it's like, what a job. Imagine if that was your job, that it's your job to put these, prisoners to death.
Oh, yeah.
Like you are basically responsible for killing them. It's the state that's killing them ultimately. But it's, they're talking about how they try to be, friendly with them and, make sure they're comfortable as much as they possibly can, obviously.
Sure.
But it's such a bizarre place to be.
Yeah. And
he was talking about how a lot of inmates actually were like very thankful for the way that they're treated. And I'm sure this isn't every prison, but, having that humility and level of respect from one human being to another in your final moments, it doesn't change the outcome, but having, somebody there that is kind of walking you through what's happening, there to ask questions, and is just treating you, with some level of respect.
Yeah.
Human.
I think it's healthy from the perspective of like the executioner for their own sake of humanity and like whatever's going on internally there. I think that's healthy. Because obviously all these cases are a bit different. There's people on the most despicable end, and there are people, we could get into the weeds about that, but these people have been designated to die by the state for X, Y, and Z reasons. So I think, at the very end, it's like, hey, this is the end of your run here. Maybe it's like the least that we can do for ourselves.
Yeah.
Like not the executionee, but the executioner to be like.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough position to be in.
Right. So, yeah.
And how do you go home with that, on your
Exactly.
conscience. And,
Yeah.
you've got to find ways to.
So I think that
deal with it.
respect and hospitality is more just to alleviate the prisoner, the state side, the executioner side to, because I bet there's a lot of psychology to unpack there. So if not, it's often we see it as like something that we're doing to the person being executed, but not often do we think about the people
Who are
on
actually
the other
carrying
side
out
of
the
it.
execution.
That, If I'm making myself clear, like that's what I mean by that. I don't mean to ramble. Just trying to find the right words for that one. This episode of Lights Out is brought to you by Built. If you're like me, you're a renter. I used to own a home, but I'm back to renting now. It's just something that I always have to pay into every single month of my life. So for those of you out there who also rent like me, if you haven't heard of Built, you're about to thank me, because you can actually earn points on your rent. It's now a reality when you pay your rent through Built. You don't even have to check with your landlord to start using this and earning points. And these points you can use towards flights, hotels, fitness classes, and even your next month's rent, which is cool. So if you're a renter like me, I take advantage of Built. And here's the thing, we earn points on groceries, travel, practically everything else we buy. But, we should also be earning points on rent. And one of our biggest monthly expenses is rent. I know that's a fact for me. So there is no cost to join Built. And as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't even heard of. There are over, like I said, 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points towards. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, why not? Let's get it going. So start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lightsout. That's joinbilt.com/lightsout. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. It really helps out the show. So joinbuilt.com/lightsout to start earning points on your rent payments today.
But speaking of absolutely despicable individuals who, in my opinion, absolutely deserve death.
Yep. Here's 43-year-old Ted Bundy, who, needs no introduction. We pretty much know his story. He was put to death in Florida by an electric chair on January 24th, 1989. He had committed rape, necrophilia, a prison escape, and more than 35 counts of murder. Bundy declined a special meal, so he was given the traditional last meal. I didn't know that prisons sometimes just have, hey, if you don't request something, we're just going to give you something anyway. Steak, medium rare, eggs over easy, hash browns, toast with butter and jelly, coffee, milk, and juice. He reportedly didn't eat any of it.
So basically, a hearty breakfast.
Yeah.
But now for a moment, let's take you back, way back, to the 1700s and see what last meals looked like back then.
Yeah.
At the age of 38, King Louis XVI would see the end of his reign. He'd be the last king of France, and his death brought an end to more than 1,000 years of continuous French monarchy. After the insurrection of August 10th, 1792, the French monarchy was soon abolished, and the king was stripped of his status and title and was then referred to as, quote, Citizen Louis Capet in his final days. His wife, Marie Antoinette, would soon be known as Widow Capet. He was then tried by the new National Convention and found guilty of high treason and executed by guillotine on January 21st, 1793. And his last meal request was a pan-fried chicken, some pastries, boiled beef, and pureed turnips. Okay. He also received a dessert consisting of 2 chicken wings, vegetables, 2 glasses of wine cut with water, a piece of sponge cake, and another glass of Malaga wine.
So, yeah, a meal fit for a king?
Yeah, pretty much. Seems like it.
So his wife, Marie Antoinette, was tried by the Revolutionary Tribunal on August 14th, 1793. Her defense was given less than 1 day to prepare. She was found guilty of 3 main charges, including high treason. She has quite a story that I just can't break down here. They did her very dirty. You can go look at her whole life story. There have been plenty of movies and books about it, but if you're fascinated by her character, she has quite the interesting story leading up to her death. She was later executed by beheading by guillotine on October 16th, 1793. She lived almost entirely on soups in her final days, with roast chicken and rolls here and there. On her final day, one source claims she ate only a few sips of broth from her vermicelli soup. She spoke with Rosalie Lamorliere, who dictated an account of the Queen's last days. Marie told her, quote, "I need nothing to eat, child. My life is over." But that's kind of how I feel. Like you mentioned that at the top of the episode, where it's like, would you even want to eat at the end? You know?
I think it also like depends on when they serve that last meal.
Some people do get it like a day or two before they're actually executed. It's not like you eat it and then you go straight to the execution
like 30
chamber.
minutes before.
Yeah.
Like, God. Yeah.
It's typically like the day before.
Yeah.
But even then, I don't know. I think I'd be too in my head.
I just think you probably wouldn't be thinking about your stomach at that point.
No.
You're thinking about what's about to happen and kind of having those final thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just people's mindsets, how much they differ,
Yeah.
right before the end. You got people like John Wayne Gacy are just like vile
Pigging
to the
out.
end, kiss my ass is their last words. And you have other people who, they've had a lot of time to think and reflect and, kind of come to terms with the reality of things and also process the afterlife and what they believe that looks like for them.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, I think the psychology of it is bizarre, but also very fascinating in a way, because it's like it just differs for everybody. Everybody's got a different experience with it, but
For sure.
But let's talk about a man named Gary Mark Gilmore, who had become famous internationally for demanding he receive the death sentence for 2 murders he admitted to. In 1977, he would become the first person in almost 10 years to be executed in the United States following the federal reinstatement of the death penalty. He was executed by firing squad on January 17th of that year. His life and death inspired the book The Executioner's Song in 1979, which later got turned into a movie in 1982, starring Tommy Lee Jones.
Great
That's
actor.
Gary.
Yeah.
Love Tommy Lee.
Mm-hmm.
His last meal was steak, potatoes, milk, and coffee. His uncle also smuggled in 3 shooters of whiskey into the prison, and Gary downed them all. His last words were, "Let's do it." Which, this is very weird. I didn't know this.
Yeah, isn't this crazy?
Crazy. But Gary's last words went on to inspire Nike's motto, "Just do it." Which is,
Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
Yeah, let's do it. And they just did Just Do It. Yeah, coined by Dan Wyden.
Yeah.
Isn't that, I didn't know that either until
I always
this,
wondered where "Just do it" came from.
It's such a simple motto.
Yeah.
Crazy that it came from this context.
I'm sure Nike doesn't want to advertise that.
Yeah, right.
God,
Yeah.
that's weird though.
Yeah. Freddy Budiman was an Indonesian drug trader who was executed in 2016. In 2011, he was arrested for importing 1.4 million ecstasy pills from mainland China into Indonesia. I know this region does not they don't screw around with their drug charges.
No, they put you to death for possession
Yeah.
in some places.
So for this, he was sentenced to death in 2012. Freddy was able to use his wealth and influence in prison, and he allegedly paid for preferential treatment and was allowed a room for conjugal visits. So he was paying off some prison guards and officials. He also allegedly created a network of drug dealers and manufactured his own drugs in prison.
Damn.
So on July 29, 2016, he was executed by firing squad. Indonesia, I didn't know this, they rarely ever grant last meals on death row, but Freddy was an exception for probably because he's paying people off. And
Totally,
he's getting some special treatment, right? So his last meal request, they were homemade meals made by his former mother-in-law. So this is otak, which is like a steamed fish cake. It's sometimes called brains because it looks like brain matter.
Yum.
Yeah, very weird last meal request. And then he also requested rendang, a spicy meat dish. Supposedly he got them.
Got some homemade dishes there at the end.
Yeah.
28-year-old Victor Feguer was executed by hanging in Iowa after being convicted for the kidnapping and murder of Dr. Edward Bartles. This became a federal crime because he crossed state lines with the victim. They hanged him with a rope that cost U.S. government $28.75. Feguer chose a single olive with a pit for his last meal.
I love this.
He then hid the pit in his pocket, hoping the tree symbolizing peace would sprout from his grave. Instead, officials discovered the olive pit in his suit pocket during the burial and destroyed it.
Damn.
So, yeah,
Yep.
He didn't get away with it.
I like the idea though, but yeah.
His last words were, quote, "I sure hope I'm the last one to go in Iowa. It would be too much to expect that I will be the last one anywhere, but I sure hope I am the last one in Iowa." On March 15, 1963, he became the last person executed in Iowa and the last federal inmate executed in the United States before the moratorium on the death penalty. But then Timothy McVeigh would follow him 38 years later.
Yep. And most of us know Timothy McVeigh. He was the Oklahoma City bomber. He committed the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in the U.S. to date. He compared his victims to stormtroopers in Star Wars, and because I guess in his mind, individually they were innocent, but collectively he saw them as part of an evil empire. So that's how he justified his actions.
Yeah, which is very flawed thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in listening to some of the tapes of his, I don't know if he necessarily was truly remorseful for what he did, but I know that when he found out that I believe 19 children died, because in that federal building, there was a daycare for the people that worked there. I think 19 children.
It was 19.
I think he did feel a little bit bad about that.
Yeah.
As you
innocent.
should.
Yeah.
But to just call people stormtroopers that work for the evil empire is just,
and they're literally children. Yeah. It defeats your, whatever point you were trying to make, gone. Doesn't really matter at that point. So yeah, he was put to death in Indiana by lethal injection at the age of 33. He was sentenced to death for 168 counts of murder, including, like Josh mentioned, 19 children. Up to 300 survivors and relatives of the victims watched the execution on a closed-circuit television feed in Oklahoma City. The survivors and relatives were split on whether the execution would bring closure or do nothing to ease their pain. Again, to remind you of the context of this, he was the first one, executed 38 years. So it was a big discussion on, like, clearly this guy has done one of the most horrific acts on U.S. soil. But at the same time, there's a big conversation surrounding this execution. So, for example, Bud Welch, who lost his 23-year-old daughter, Julie, in the attack, said, quote, "No one has ever told me how we benefit by taking a human out of a cage to kill him." For his final meal, Timothy received 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. He reportedly ate the ice cream alone in his windowless cell the night before he was executed by lethal injection on June 11th, 2001.
Yeah, I think that that quote from Bud Welch is very eye-opening.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
And because I think these types of tragic events affect everybody differently, and everybody's going to feel different, obviously, about the death penalty and whether or not it actually does. I mean, it does what it's supposed to do. It kills the person, but does that actually equal peace for those affected?
Yeah, and justice.
Yeah. And justice, ultimately.
Like, what is it? Yeah.
Right.
It's definitely it's an ongoing discussion this day,
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
James Lee Beathard was sentenced to death for the murder of Gene Hathorne Sr., his wife Linda Sue, and their 14-year-old son Marcus. James had no known criminal history, no report of substance abuse problems, and no experience with guns. There was no physical evidence that linked him to the crime. He was almost entirely convicted on the testimony of Gene Hathorne Jr., who was with him on the day of his crime and also a member of the family that was murdered. Gene also had a motive for wanting his family killed, though, so he could collect on a small inheritance. He claimed he witnessed James killing the family, and because of this, James was then found guilty and sentenced to death, all from this guy's testimony, which is kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
A year after the trial, Gene recanted his testimony, saying that he had murdered them and acted alone. He revised his original story, saying that James had been present, but that he had hidden in the woods and had not participated in the killings. James's lawyers requested a new trial, but the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals turned it down because a criminal defendant only has 30 days after a judgment is entered against him to present new evidence that might justify a new trial. This is one of the shortest time periods for new evidence in the country. Yeah, Texas, of course it's Texas.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah.
This is in here. I mean, this is like a prime example of how the system fails.
Right.
It's like situations like this. The one thing that he was really convicted on, that was that testimony. And that guy said, wait, no, he actually didn't do this. But too late, 30 days after judgment. That's all you know.
They proceeded with James Beathard's execution, regardless of any new evidence presented on December 22nd, 1999. While incarcerated, he said, quote, "There's no millionaires in here. It's just that simple." His last words, among other things, involved how much he loved his family and how the violence of the U.S. government against foreign countries was horrific. His last meal was battered catfish, fried chicken, French fries, fried calamari rings, green salad, fresh carrot sticks, and a Coca-Cola. Yeah, and you look at, it's Texas, Oklahoma, it's these states right in that part of the country where this happens actually a lot more often than you think.
Yeah.
As most of us know, weight loss solutions are not a one-size-fits-all, and just losing weight can be very hard. And when it comes to prioritizing your health and feeling confident and strong, it can be difficult to know even where to start. And now you can get your health in check and be confident that you're on the right track to getting healthy through HERS. HERS is changing women's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable weight loss treatments. Their holistic programs give you access to personalized solutions like GLP-1 weekly injections that have the same active ingredients as Ozempic and Wegovy, as well as oral medication kits. HERS connects you with a medical provider who can create a personalized treatment plan tailored to your needs. If prescribed, you'll get the medication as part of a doctor-developed weight loss program, including ongoing care and online support at no additional cost. Through HERS, weight loss plans are more affordable, with compounded GLP-1 injections starting at $199 per month with a 12-month subscription paid up front. No hidden fees and no membership fees. Plus, your personalized treatment ships for free directly to your door, which just makes it so convenient. So if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey, it's time you find the best option that works for you with HERS. Start your free online visit today at forhers.com/lightsout. That's FORHERS.com/lightsout for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/lightsout. HERS weight loss is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded.
So Jonathan Wayne Nobles, while high, stabbed 2 women to death. These were Mitzi Nally and Kelly Farquhar. Jonathan had broken into their home in Austin, Texas in 1986. He also injured one of the victims' boyfriends, Ron Ross, who tried to come to their aid. And Ron was stabbed 19 times and lost an eye during this attack. Jonathan was later found guilty and sentenced to death. During his 12 years on death row, he got sober, he converted to Catholicism, and expressed love for the victims' families and friends. He asked for forgiveness for his actions. Some believed he was truly rehabilitated. Others argued that he wasn't. Mitzi's mother, Paula, ended up forgiving him. She later said, quote, "You forgive because it frees you. Hopefully one day it will free the offender, but that's not the reason you do it. You do it because it frees you." She eventually met Jonathan face to face, saying it was, quote, "the hardest thing I ever did, second only to burying my child." From the experience, she said, quote, "I went against my whole family, but I knew that if I didn't tell Jonathan I had forgiven him, I would be a prisoner for the rest of my life, and I couldn't live with that. I never wanted to ask him why. That was never important to me. Jonathan's important was that I have the opportunity to give him back the responsibility for the devastation and the pain and destruction that he brought into a lot of people's lives. Before his execution, he said, quote, I don't think I'm the monster who perpetrated these terrible acts. Nothing I can do for 1,000 years can relieve me of my responsibility. Ron Ross, the victim who survived, sat on the glass opposite the electric chair where Jonathan sat on October 7th, 1998. Jonathan told him, quote, Ron, I took so much from you. I'm sorry. I know you probably don't want my love, but you have it. To Paula, he said, quote, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wish I could bring her back to you. He then recited 1 Corinthians 13, which is the love is patient, etc. passage.
Love is kind.
Yeah, exactly. According to his friend Steve Earle, who was in the audience, Jonathan began singing. And here's actually a clip of him describing Jonathan's last moments.
It took a long time, but John had prearranged a signal, and which is normally done, and he got to the end of his statement, and then he started singing suddenly at the end of that statement, and no one else knew why. But the night before, John's mother, who he hadn't spoken to in years, we finally tracked her down, and they spoke on the telephone. And his mother said, John, I used to love the way that you sang. I love the way you sang Silent Night when you were a little boy. So Jonathan Nobles, when he died, was singing Silent Night for his mother. And when he got to the line, mother and child, I swear to God, suddenly all of the air blew out of his lungs. It was like one of the loudest sounds I've ever heard. It was like, huh! And his head pitched forward so violently that his heavy plastic prison-issue glasses flew off of his face, bounced off of his chest, and landed on the floor. What I saw didn't look painless, and it didn't look humane. It looked like violence, and it looked like murder.
So this case is kind of an outlier because Jonathan's last meal, it was the body and blood of Christ, which is, a Eucharist wafer and a sip of wine. According to the Bible, this was, Jesus' last meal with his disciples before his own execution. So this one certainly stands out against the others who, typically you get steak and fries or whatever. Quite an interesting journey there. It's
Basically,
obviously
took communion
right
before being executed.
Yeah. What is like because obviously torture is a part of the laws that we have that you can't, I don't know, like you can unpack that however you want. But yeah, I think his friend's depiction of that final moment is disturbing.
Yeah, you can almost picture it.
Yeah.
It was very descriptive. So,
and to this day, there have been cases where lethal injection has failed.
Yeah.
And what repercussions are against the state after a failed execution, right? If any, pretty brutal case though.
Heavy shit.
Yeah.
It gets heavy here.
Yeah. I feel like we couldn't just cover these and all have just some fun and games because these are people's lives at the end of the day,
Yeah. But in 1982, a man named David Wayne Spence was convicted of the rape and torture murders of 3 teenagers in Waco, Texas, known as the Lake Waco murders. The prosecution relied heavily on testimony by convicted felons and a forensic dentist. The dentist, after only looking at the photographs, linked David to bite marks identified on the bodies of the victims. DNA evidence found did not match David's. But his story didn't end there. In 1986, David's mother approached police with a letter she had received. The letter was from an inmate confessing he had lied during his testimony in her son David's trial. Mysteriously, she was raped and murdered in her home 2 days later. Bite marks were discovered on her body similar to the ones found in the 1982 murders. So that tells you whoever did these is likely still out there.
Right.
The same forensic dentist was called in to examine the marks, and his testimony helped convict 2 men for the rape and murder. They were both sentenced to life in prison, but in 2000, DNA evidence led to them being exonerated. So this forensic dentist, not so good.
Right.
Many have critiqued all the convictions involved in these cases, and some have also pointed out that bite mark evidence was first used to convict and execute George Burroughs in the 1692 Salem witch trials. George was posthumously exonerated, and his family was awarded 50 pounds in damages. After everything, David Wayne Spence was still executed, despite all of this, on April 3rd, 1997. His last meal request was fried chicken, french fries, tea, coffee, chocolate ice cream, and Coca-Cola. You can see a lot of similarities with a lot of these last meals. I wonder if it's kind of standard, especially like french fries, ice cream.
Fried chicken comes up a lot. Yeah,
Coca-Cola.
Yeah. So Dobie GIllis Williams was a black man in his early 20s, and he was convicted of the murder of a white Louisiana housewife, Sonia Nippers, in 1984 by an all-white jury. He was later executed by lethal injection in 1999. 3 police officers had testified that Dobie had confessed to the crime and claimed they caught it on a tape recording. It was later discovered the recorder wasn't used properly and no recording ever existed. The case and trial were plagued by controversy, and many, including Sister Helen Prejean, who was a famous Catholic nun and staunch anti-death penalty activist, argued it would have been impossible for Dobie to commit the crime. So his trial lawyer was later disbarred for incompetence, and during the proceedings, he had failed to discuss the fact that Dobie was intellectually disabled with an IQ of 65. And the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that mitigating information was introduced to the jury too late in the case. So Sister Helen emphasized that poor and minority people are disproportionately sentenced to death and executed in the United States criminal justice system. A study also found that the odds of a death sentence were 97% higher if the victim was white.
That's crazy.
Isn't that disgusting, right? Dobie's execution was stayed twice, but eventually they still went through with it in 1999. His last meal, 12 candy bars and some ice cream. Sounds like a little kid, basically.
Yeah.
In 2002, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional for the death penalty to be imposed on persons with intellectual disability. They allowed states to set the standard by which the condition would be determined. Another case where it's like, man, we haven't really figured that out.
Yeah, there's definitely some serious flaws
Yeah.
in this system, especially when you're talking about somebody's, whether they live or die. It seems like we need to figure this out.
Yeah. There are other, if you're curious about more stats too on the death penalty, there are some fairly disturbing stats out there that are fairly eye-opening, which I don't know, I think you and I can both agree on, like, some people just feels like they just don't deserve the luxury of living anymore for like the crimes that they commit. But as we've talked about before, I remember last year we had a pretty deep discussion about the death penalty, but it's like when it's in the hands of the state,
Yeah.
is where you can kind of see how things don't work out as intended. It's just kind of like a flawed system. So like
It's a flawed system through and through.
Right.
Even just sentencing people.
Right, exactly.
People, for the same crimes are sentenced totally different, depending on
Right.
who they are and,
Yeah.
color of their skin. And there's just major issues all the way across the board.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think about especially people like John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, who are, not
Without
only,
a shadow of a doubt.
not only just murdering and, literally for, their own personal enjoyment, but crimes against children, people that are murdering children are doing heinous crimes to children. I just, don't see any reason why this person should be on this planet anymore.
For sure.
Like, what's the point?
I can agree with that. Yeah.
But yeah, in other cases, though, I think there's people, who, maybe, I think it's so circumstantial and based on this, what happened, where that person was at in their life, how young they were, especially
Yeah.
when they did the crime. I think there's definitely more leeway there.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. It's one that I struggle with and go back and forth on, because it's so, I think it needs to be revisited, and, we need to revise the way that we hand this down.
For sure.
And then there's people that are on death row and are never executed,
Right,
but yet they're on death row.
Keep appealing. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I would want to know the specific statistics around it, but I think one of the issues was, especially with executing people who were innocent, was a lack of good investigation, but also DNA evidence. I think that's really changed the game.
Yes, absolutely.
And has gotten some people, not nearly enough people who are innocent on death row awaiting execution off of it.
Yeah.
But I think DNA and also genealogy is really going, as
Huge.
long as that continues going in the right direction and we get better and better at doing that, and law enforcement is trained and equipped to utilize those tools, hopefully this does not happen anymore.
Right.
Or, far less than what it has in history. But
I do have a few stats I want to throw out. I do think they're a little interesting. So in the past this one's pretty stark. In the past 2 decades, the murder rate has been significantly higher in states with the death penalty.
So the argument being
Tough
death
on
penalty
crime
deters crime.
It doesn't. Since 1973, about 200 death row prisoners have been exonerated in the U.S. Scary that they were even on death row to begin with, right?
Yeah.
200.
Yeah.
A 2014 study conducted by Stanford researchers estimated that if all defendants given the death sentence were executed, 4.1% of them would be innocent. So it's like, can we just accept that, hey, these are just
4% error rate? Yeah.
So we're still doing pretty good? Or
then someone would argue essentially murdering innocent people.
Exactly. State murdering innocent people. Yeah. So just things to consider. I pulled those 3. I thought.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, the death penalty's been abolished in a lot of states.
Yeah.
That don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
For these very reasons. Yeah. It's a difficult one for sure. But let's talk about the man who ruined death row meals in Texas.
This guy.
Yeah. Lawrence Russell Brewer, a white supremacist, was not only a racist murderer, but he also ruined the last meal request for every death row inmate in Texas. So here's how this all happened. On June 7th, 1988, in Jasper County, Texas, Lawrence offered 49-year-old James Byrd Jr., a black man, a ride home in his pickup truck. 2 of Lawrence's friends, John King and Sean Berry, were also in the car. Lawrence drove them to a remote road at the edge of town. Together, the 3 men beat James, spray painted his face, urinated and defecated on him, before chaining his ankles to the back of the pickup truck. They then drove the truck around for a few miles before dumping what was left of James in front of a local black church. Absolutely horrific.
Jesus.
Lawrence Brewer and John King became the first white men sentenced to death for the killing of a black person in modern history. Lawrence was executed by lethal injection for his part in the murder on September 21st, 2011. His last meal request was 2 chicken fried steaks with gravy-drenched onions, a bacon triple cheeseburger with all the fixings on the side, a cheese omelet loaded with ground beef, tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, and jalapenos, and he continued to ask for other things like a massive bowl of ketchup-smothered fried okra, barbecued meat by the pound with a half a loaf of white bread to sop it up, and 3 fully decked-out fajitas. Still not finished, he asked for even more. A Pizza Hut Meat Lovers pizza, a pint of Bluebell vanilla ice cream, a piece of peanut butter fudge with crushed peanuts, and 3 root beers. And it's unclear how much of this food actually made it to him, but whatever he did end up getting, he refused to eat any of it.
Just the most despicable fucking human.
He asked for all of this, and he's like, well, not hungry.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because of this, Texas stopped honoring last meal requests indefinitely. And ironically, this also robbed his accomplice, John King, of his last meal request in 2019. So they don't get it at all in Texas.
Nope, it's gone.
They just get a standard meal from the prison kitchen.
Mm-hmm. No more requests.
Which it seems like a lot of prisons do not do the custom requests from outside the prison.
Yeah.
There's a couple of YouTube videos of this guy who is the death row chef, and he actually makes meals for death row inmates. They still get to, he has like a menu of like a bunch of different things.
Okay.
They get to still pick what they want, but he actually chefs it up for them.
Okay.
And it's a really eye-opening to hear him, because he really enjoys like being able to provide a tasty meal and stuff, and hear their feedback, and kind of cook to what they want.
Yeah. What was his name?
Brian D. Price.
Brian D. Price. That's an interesting gig.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some interviews with him that are pretty interesting, if you're curious. But otherwise, I wonder how many places even still do
the custom ones.
The custom where they bring in outside stuff.
Probably not many, I can imagine.
I'm sure.
But we know this episode has been kind of a whiplash.
Yeah,
to say the least. So we're gonna top it off with this last one that I think is a bit uplifting, because as we can see just from this episode, a lot of nuance here to consider with Last Meals, with Death Row. So we're gonna end it here with 53-year-old Phillip Workman. On the day before his execution in 2007, he requested that a large vegetarian pizza be given to every homeless person near Riverbend Maximum Security Institution instead of having his last meal. Phillip had once been homeless himself, and he was convicted in 1982 for killing a police officer, Memphis Police Lieutenant Ronald Oliver. Decades later, before his execution, he put in his request for pizza donations. The prison officials refused the request, saying that, we don't donate to charities. This is completely out of pocket. But many others across the Nashville area in Tennessee still followed through with his wish. A local woman named Donna Spangler heard about his request and immediately called up her friends. Together, they pitched in $1,200 to buy 150 pizzas that they sent to Nashville's rescue mission, which provided overnight shelter, food, and assistance to more than 800 homeless people a night. Donna said, quote, "I knew my husband would have a heart attack. I put some of it on the credit card, but I thought we'll find a way to pay for them later. I just felt like I had to do something positive." The pizzas didn't even stop there. PETA ended up sending 15 veggie pizzas to the same facility, and a Minneapolis, Minnesota radio station sent 17 pizzas to Nashville's Oasis Center, a shelter that helped about 260 teenagers in crisis. Countless more pizzas were donated around the Nashville area. That next day, Phillip Workman was executed by lethal injection on May 9th, 2007. Controversy and doubt still surround his original conviction, if you want to look into it a little more, but 5 of the jurors who convicted Phillip in 1982 have since signed affidavits renouncing either the sentence or the verdict, or both. But I feel like that last gesture, I think, is
to do something positive.
Yeah.
And that'd be a good thing to just institute across the nation.
Yeah.
Do something for yourself or do something for somebody else.
Positive, yeah.
Have a selfless moment before the end.
Like kind of like an act of not total redemption, but just something.
Yeah.
With something so dark happening, it's kind of nice to have that silver lining.
Yeah. I like that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Heavy
episode.
Heavy episode. Yeah.
I mean, we could have just ran it kind of light,
which a lot of people
fun.
do.
Yeah.
Just run it. There's a zillion YouTube videos of like YouTubers just, doing only the fun, positive side of it, which is the food part, right?
Yeah.
But kind of forgetting about the human side of it and the effects of what's actually happening. They're having a last meal. That's all fun and whatever. But then, this person is dying.
There's there's a very dark reality behind all this. And that Vice documentary, I think, touched on all this really well. I went a bit further with some of the cases, but that was their goal. Where, you kind of start, it's fun. They even had somebody like whip up. They have these really cool images of all the meals that people did. And then as the episode continues, you're like, whoa, oh yeah, this is a very nuanced discussion to have here.
Yeah, well, I think it's one that needs to be had and something everybody should be thinking about. You know, like, I think it's easy to just kind of lock that away and be like, well, they just, everybody on death row must deserve death.
Yeah.
But
There's a small percentage out there that we've proven don't deserve it.
Right. Yeah. Something, hopefully this episode leaves you with something to think about a little bit further.
Yeah. And maybe, I mean, in a weird way, something to be thankful for this Thanksgiving.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah. Let us know your thoughts and last meal requests. If you got some interesting ones, we definitely want to hear it. I do want to ask of all of you one simple thing. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're very close to getting to 500,000 subscribers on the Lights Out YouTube channel. Make our year grand and bright. We may sing you a Christmas carol.
We will sing you a Christmas carol.
We will do something special for all of you if we get to that 500,000 mark before the end of the year. That is our goal. We all put in a lot of work to bring this show to you. So take a minute. It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And we're on our way to 500,000 on Spotify followers as well, which is amazing.
Awesome.
But thank you to all of you out there for all of the love, support, kind words, and not so kind words. We appreciate all of you.
Oh, I like those. Yeah. I feel like I haven't seen them in a while, but
there's filters. They're there if you look for them. Trust me. But,
somebody come at me out there. I dare you.
But yeah, thanks for joining us for this one. We'll catch you guys next week. And until then, lights out.